study mode.
Welcome, and thank you for joining iShade today for our webinar and Ask the Expert session, Moving Beyond Reports, presented by Peter M Vessenes. With over 30 years experience in the financial industry, Peter is the CEO and founder of Prophecy Incorporated, a financial software service for financial professionals, CPAs, and pro advisors. Prophecy is an all-in-one financial analysis and budgeting software from seasoned financial experts. Prophecy helps business owners and financial advisors alike gain powerful insights to manage cash flow, grow profitability, and increase valuation. Immediately following today's webinar, please join us for our live Ask the Expert Q&A session, where you can ask all of your questions from 3 o'clock to 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Now let's get started. Peter, you can take it from here.
Thanks. Welcome, everyone. I know I missed you all last month because I was overseas internationally, but we're just going to continue on with the series and talk about moving beyond reports. Now, I really wanted to start this with what is really changing in accountancy. We've talked about these things in the past. There are definite shifts that are taking place globally. Some of you who've been on these before know that we have a presence in North America, the U.S., Canada, in the United Kingdom, in Australia, and New Zealand. And we also have offices in Europe. So we're connected, kind of around the world. And as, it becomes more of a global marketplace, there are certain things that are affecting everybody, and accountancy is one of them. So one of the big things occurring right now is that there are a lot of cloud accounting softwares. In other words, they're web-based accounting applications. So, for example, QuickBooks has QuickBooks Online. And they still are selling QuickBooks Desktop, but they are sunsetting it. From what we understand, it probably only has it for 3 years or 4 years or so that you can even make use of it. So QuickBooks had here since before the beginning, but they released a cloud-based accounting application. The next, probably most significant one that people are hearing about is Xero, X-E-R-O. Xero is a cloud-based accounting software that is very robust. They're based out of New Zealand, and their largest market is in Australia. They went public a few years ago, and they have a growing presence in the United Kingdom, and they're working hard to break into the U.S. marketplace. Again, cloud-based accounting, lots of very simple features, great visual interfaces. The next one that is really making headway in this is Sage. Of course, now Sage in the U.S. Had acquired Peachtree and MAS. Sage is very, very large in the United Kingdom. Sage is the equivalent of QuickBooks in the UK. So Sage has just released an application that's going through some enhancements. Sage 1. It's a cloud-based accounting software. And then actually in the United Kingdom and in parts of Europe, but particularly in the Netherlands and soon in Germany, there's another one called Twinfield. Twinfield is a very, very robust cloud-based accounting software, kind of beyond what QuickBooks ever did, and certainly past where Sage and Xero and QuickBooks Online is. So there are a lot of cloud-based accounting applications that are coming out. And frankly, I am quite certain that this is how the future is going to work for the small and mid-sized enterprise. The SME marketplace is going to be essentially migrated towards cloud-based accounting. Now, this is very interesting because, historically, why in North America do people always use QuickBooks? Well, if you bought a PC, QuickBooks came along with it. And so CPAs were used to working with QuickBooks top model, and it went through lots of iterations. It's a little clumsy in some ways, but everybody's familiar with it. And they would basically, try and promote it both through accounting firms, through if you were a QuickBooks Pro advisor, so you get pricing advantages and distribution, but they would also try and sell it very directly to business owners. So QuickBooks had a huge market share. Xero is trying to take the same approach, not only working with accounting firms, but selling directly to the consumer. QuickBooks, with their QuickBooks Online product, is basically doing a very intensive marketing campaign through television and radio and other things to sell it directly to business owners. Sage is emerging and trying to follow the same marketing approach in the United Kingdom. And the equivalent of QuickBooks in Australia is a product called MYOB. For those of you who used to work with Apple computers, MYOB used to be the Apple accounting software that was around 10, 12 years ago. I'm not sure if that's still sold. We don't use Macs for our accounting needs. But they also are migrating towards creating online access. So there's a definitive shift in whether there are newer companies like Xero, or whether they're older companies like Sage and IOB and Intuit, or medium old companies like who are about 10, 12 years old, really trying to saturate the marketplace. Now, what's interesting about these applications is they really lack all the robust features of the desktop versions. This is not true of how Twinfield works. But Twinfield's pretty expensive, and it's primarily targeted towards mid-large companies. And it is only exclusively sold through accounting firms. So, for example, in the United Kingdom, Baker Tilly utilizes it with their business clients. So what's interesting is there's this shift toward cloud-based accounting in the actual apps, but the features aren't quite as robust as what's going on. Many of you I know we had a large number of people who were very, very excited for getting the prophecy products working with QuickBooks Online, which took a while because they had to give us the ways of talking to it, which was always a little bit of a challenge to work with technology. And we've been their partner for 8 years now, but it was a bit of a challenge. And what we found when we finally got it out and rolled it out, that a lot of people were disappointed, not in prophecy apps, but in the features in QuickBooks Online. So obviously when the market is liking something, there are going to be changes that come from the application developers. But it takes some time. But there's no question that what you're used to using in desktop accounting software is pretty much going to be as archaic as doing a telephone modem on getting on the internet would be today. So there's a definite shift coming that's going to affect you, and you need to become familiar with how cloud-based accounting is working. Now, there are some advantages to the cloud-based accounting. Your reporting is easier, the visual interfaces are easier, you can be anywhere on any kind of a smart device and still access it. But there's no question that the software developers themselves are migrating towards cloud-based accounting. The other thing that we're noticing is more accountants are really getting trained in broader services to startups and SME clients. And what does that mean? Well, it's becoming harder and harder to launch a business because of economic recession, and yet countries want to promote growth. So, for example, in the United Kingdom, there is a whole devoted focus towards the expansion of new companies in both technology and medical devices and a number of types of businesses that they believe represent the future of building a stronger economy in the United Kingdom. So there's all types of government support. There are all types of promotions. They're creating tax advantages. And some of the accounting firms are themselves saying, okay, the government's bought in. This is what we want to do. Here in the U.S., we're coming up on a presidential race, and of course, we're going to hear both aisles chatting about helping the little guy and regular workers and robust rebuilding small businesses and so on. So we're about to get assaulted by all of that. But I do believe that over the next election cycle, we're going to see more of a shift towards simpler ways of businesses being able to grow, small businesses. So it's been very interesting for us to watch how accountants are getting trained in wider-based services. So the last time I was visiting with you all, talked about how it all starts with reporting. And the idea is to be able to get the most basic reports out to your clients in a way that the things that they might be looking for that you're used to talking about are there for them. And so whether we've seen this example in the UK in a group called the International Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, the ICAEW. Now the ICAEW has got, I think it's 50 or 60,000 accountants who are part of it, chartered accountants, very, very people, and they actually are beginning a process of providing training and continuing ed on how to provide broader services to small and medium business clients. These types of basic services have been going on for more than a decade in Australia and in New Zealand. Now again, much smaller markets. Together there's only about 30 million people there. But there's no question that accountancy in Australia and New Zealand has already made a shift towards providing value-added services that go beyond tax and audit and compliance. So we're seeing globally that more accountants are getting really trained in a broader collection of services. This was another thing that just blew me away since the last time we visited. The last time I told you that 2 of the big 4 are pursuing retainer-based services in Australia and New Zealand. Actually now, to my knowledge, it might be all 4, but at least the ones that I'm familiar with, 3 of the big 4 are pursuing retainer-based services in Australia and New Zealand. To whom? Not to the megacorps, but actually to the SME marketplace. Now think of that. You basically have Deloitte Touche, you have PricewaterhouseCoopers, and you have KPMG, who are actively pursuing not the mid-size, but the SME world for retainer-based services. That is pretty significant. What is even more significant is that those same 3 of the big 4 in the UK have already created retainer-based service models that specifically target SMEs. They're doing it. And if you don't think that the big 4 going after the small and mid-market is not going to come to the United States, I have a bridge in Brooklyn I'd like to sell you. I was actually chatting with some of the decision makers in one of the big 4 about this when I was over in the UK. And I said, why are you doing this? And I said, well, you know, we always take a look at what our market share is for our traditional clients here. And you know, one year it's 24.5%, next year it's 25%, next year it's 25.5%, next year it's 24.25%. There's basically 4 of us that traditionally get, you know, the large and super large companies in the UK to work with. And he said, but the big companies are getting really smart. And this was a literal quote. He told me that their cost of securing the sale on a 2-year project took more than 12 to 14 months of billing to make up the cost of the sale, because they basically are pitting the big 4 against one another. So I said, okay, I can understand there's a price squeeze on you, and you know, they're sitting on their cash. Why the SME marketplace? And he looked at me and he said, well, very, very simple. 99% of the businesses in the United Kingdom are SMEs, and over 53% of the gross domestic product are in the SMEs. And frankly, most of the here is in the SMEs. So, and I said, so what about all these other accounting firms? He said, they haven't figured out how to do it. So this was quite a statement. And when we actually were showing our applications, because we were showing our applications to a couple of the big 4, they basically introduced us to their counterparts in Australia and New Zealand that were doing the same thing. One of the big four in the U.S. Heard about what we were doing and has an interest in our apps here. This is not insignificant. This is a huge shift that's occurring. And on top of all of this, we found out that McGladrey is expanding through global acquisition. I won't tell you through who, but again, through some other conversations we had, for five, McGladrey is actually looking to basically make it the big five, not the big four. And they're doing it through acquisitions. And one of the acquisitions we know they're going after is already involved in services to the mid and mid-large. So these are really, really significant shifts. And it's imperative that you understand what this means. Now, I actually have someone that works for us on our development team over in Europe who came out of KPMG. They were a consultative consultant in Germany and had spent years doing it. And we were very grateful to bring them on our team. And I said, look, when you went into a company to assist with the higher level stuff, not just can you read the reports and the KPIs, but actually doing the forecasting, financial analytics, the ability to design and understand a true balance sheet forecast. How many, not administrators within your company, within KPMG, but how many of the team actually have the skills and the knowledge to be able to do that? He said, out of how many? I said, of 100, how many? And he looked at me and he said, I don't know, 4, 5. I said, how many that really knew how to read the reports and understand what they meant? He said, 15, maybe 20. And this stunned me because I tend to think of the big four as providing the type of consultative services to the larger companies that I used to do in the 80s and 90s and part of the 2000s. And it stunned me that the number of people within those teams that really had those high levels of services were that small. However, it also told me that if they're going after the SME marketplace, the big hitters, the 10% of the big four, aren't going to be able to cover that type of marketplace. So they're actually getting to do a lot of training in those high-level services. I mean a significant amount of training. The next thing I discovered was that the big four doesn't know everything. They have already, some have been making marketing mistakes. And I won't name them by who they are, but one of them I know is trying to develop their own software apps to do the kind of thing that we do, that Xero does, that other apps developers do. Well, we'll find out. Another was so certain they were going to do well in the marketplace that they ran a marketing event, which basically said, we know you have problems, we can help you with them. So we're going to be the people that were rescuing the SME business owner on their problems. I don't know about you, but when I meet with a business owner, I never open up with saying, I know you have problems. And the backlash, the media press and business press came back at them so hard. What do you mean problems? My company is, It was, now, do I think that SMEs have needs? Of course I do. I've done gap analysis in businesses since 1982. I know they do. But you do not make a broad-based marketing campaign around the fact that you have problems, we can fix them. So there are things that are happening that are fairly strange, anyhow. But the point of all of this is you will be affected. Not today, maybe not 12 months from now, but 3 years from now, 4 years from now, I know at least for the ones in the UK and Australia, how many businesses they plan on capturing in the SME marketplace in those markets. You will be affected. There's no question you will be affected. So what's the fundamental thing that I think is imperative? Customers are loyal to you only if you give them what they really want. Now, why is this so critical? Well, you know, accountants are notorious for being massive extroverts that really worry about all the relational concerns with their business owners. Not. Right? We tend to be very introverted types of people trying to deal in plain elements of tax and strategy and some basics in capital management. We're good at looking at the past and telling them what's going on today, and we might want to adjust in expenditures and acquisition to help implicate how our balance sheet and taxable issues are going to be by the end of this year. That's kind of about what we've done. But what's beginning to occur is that as more and more accountants are moving towards these value-added services, your customers are not going to be so loyal because they really are loyal only if you really, truly give them what they want. So how do we find out? How to give them what they want? Again, accountants in general are not exactly the most relational people, right? But we need to ask very basic questions. I don't think it's hard if an accountant calls up a business owner that's their client for the business owner to take the call. Usually when the accountant calls up, the blood pressure of the business owner goes through the roof. What? Oh my God, why is he calling? Okay. Well, so I think the ability to get through is easy. The question is, will you do it? But when you call, the real objective is to engage in a conversation. Now, you know, most of the time, when you're engaging in conversations that relate around the stability and the financial security and the future of the company, I don't like doing that over the telephone. Myself, I think if you can't do it live and in person, at least try to do it through a Skype call where you get some video or a GoToMeeting. But the objective is to set up a meeting when you call so that you can just have a chat. We're going to have a chat. So basic questions. What are the concerns you typically have about the company? Why are you asking me that? Well, we're asking that because we understand, you know, where the markets have been and where the economy has been. And we want to make sure that we can do a better job of helping you grow financially, improve profitability, increase valuation, you know. And it, you know, we've been negligent up to this point. I just really want to find out, what are the concerns you typically have about the company? You mean about money? About anything. I can't overestimate to you how incredibly necessary it is for you to initiate these conversations in humility. I believe that the accounting industry and basically financial services providers tend to not do a very good job of creating relationships with people who pay their bills. And some of it is a consequence of the fact that, well, they have their taxes done. I've been doing their taxes for 26 years, and I take them out golfing twice a year. What more is there? But, you know, the fact of the matter is that they're the ones that are driving the engine of your companies, whether they're doing it through the consumer side of personal taxes or whether they're doing it through the corporate side of the business taxes. They're the people that are driving the engine. And I really feel that there's a need in accountancy for gaining a little humility when it comes to relating to your clients. So the most basic question, what are the concerns you typically have about the company, are just critical. Second question, how do you build future plans for the company? There's no wrong answer here. Well, I don't know, or well, we just try to make it grow. And great. How do you build future plans for the company? The basic thing is, tell me more. Whenever I hear someone answer a question that I have asked, I always state their answer back to them in my own language because I want them to know that I have heard and understood what they're saying. So it's incredibly simple to do, but it's profoundly powerful. So how do you build future plans for the company? I'm not judging whether it's right or it's wrong. I'm there to be a safe place for them to talk about the money in their business. How do you build future plans for the company? What are the money questions you have about your business? Notice this is the third question, and I haven't even brought up money yet to the third question. What are the concerns? How do you build future plans? What are the money questions you have about your business? And sometimes you get a flippant response, well, how come I'm not making more? You can laugh and say, yeah, we all want to make more, but that's a really good question. Why aren't you? Why aren't you making more? That's a great question, I'm sure you've thought about, those. Tell me, what has occurred to you? How does that apply? You really want to get your clients to talk to you because we have to go past reports and we have to build towards the future. If you are already involved in simple ways of generating reports and having more touches and sending out the financials once a month, or sending them the KPIs with maybe a little explanation of them, that's fantastic. You should do that. If you're not doing it, you should be. If you're doing it and you want to print them out from the accounting software, that's great. Some accounting softwares have some automated ways of doing it. The online stuff, the client can look them up. Our tools allow you to automate it just by saying, here's what I want to send to them. There's the time of the week and the frequency, and boom, out it goes. You don't have to do anything. There's no labor involved. But if you have been starting with reports, getting them to look at reports, helping to understand the financials, you need to move past that for helping them understand the future. So what are the money questions you have about your business? This is a really valuable question. Historically, what have been red flag indicators for you? Unless you have some amazing business practice that's always up, what really have been, what red flags have you hit before? Number of employees locked out on you, and you don't know why. Or some people I hired aren't turning out so well, and I got the human resource at it. I had a supplier of some component elements, and they sold the business. It's been terrible. I should have figured it out when they notified me, and I should have looked for alternative sources faster. Who knows? But you have to get them comfortable talking to you about what have been red flags for them in their company. You're a trusted advisor. They do believe you understand the money side of what's going on. And I think it's really, really imperative that if you are not going to get left in the dust by the big four and, maybe the big five and some of the other larger organizations that are moving towards going after your bread and butter market, you need to learn what they're doing. This is what they do. They ask these kind of questions. Find out as much as you can. From finding out, you'll be able to tell what they need. Okay. It's imperative to provide them information that they said what was valuable. And as much as possible, do this with as little effort on your part as possible. Now, what do I mean by that? One of the things I found that was really fascinating, and this was with a couple of the big four, when we were running demos of our application called CFO. We did a demo, and they said, oh my goodness, incredible, amazing feature. I mean, we do that with spreadsheets. Oh my God, this is wonderful. And then the questions they asked really revolved around, can it do, and they named something that they knew was of value to the client, but could be done without any labor on their part. Well, what was funny was, well, yeah, of course, we had built into the application a number of things that were value added that once you synchronized it with the client company, you just set up these automated processes, whether it was on a smart device or with automated emails or login through your own website into the app, that you don't do anything. Literally, there's zero labor on your part, but you're creating value right out of the gate. I found that fascinating. I thought that the things that the Big Four would be interested in were the really advanced tools, the scenario building, the triple cash flow forecasting, the balance sheet forecasting, the tactics and strategies for increasing valuation. I mean, we have really fancy stuff in there. Oh, that was good, but that wasn't what was interesting to them. What was interesting to them is how can we create value-added features that we know they want and do that without any work on our side. Wow, what stupid I was. It's imperative that you find out what they need so you can figure out how much you can provide for them without labor on your side. This is one of the reasons why the desktop accounting software is starting to die, because the online stuff is available without any labor on your part if they just know where to link or go or click. So what used to take generating reports is now an automated process. One of the funny things about our applications is they're priced at such a low point that you couldn't generate 10% for the cost of it for a month. You couldn't generate 10% of the reports that are available through the app because of the administrative cost being higher on just generating 10% of those things from your labor cost. It's where the software industry is taking management of businesses. There's no question this is where it's going. But it's really important that you find ways to get value with as much as possible, as little as possible out of you. Why? That's a very strange thing to say, but why is that so important? It's important because though reports open the door for more conversations, and conversations bring about the discovery of needs, it's the needs that define the next conversation and the strategy. And the reason you want to be able to provide them things right away that are not necessarily hard labor on your part is because you need the time to learn how to do the advanced services. Remember, if only 10% or less of the Big Four going into the large corps know how to provide those higher level services, how many, you think most mid-size and smaller firms really know how to provide those things? Now, I'm not saying there aren't exceptions to the rule, but probably very, very few people do. The fact that the Big Four is going after your marketplace, training their people to do what their highest level people do, but on a smaller scale basis, and utilizing advanced technologies, you better start providing services that are simple, that don't require a lot of knowledge base on your part to start with, so you are buying the time to learn how to provide those higher level services. You have to define what the next strategy is in all of these things. Here's the key. The future is always about risk and investment. It takes money to make money. We spend money to make money. Very few companies positively cash flow every month. Very few companies have absolutely no problem with receivables. The future is always about risk and investment. And most business owners know very little about it. I think one of the saddest things I've seen is that a lot of reports are done on accrual. And the company could have such problems with aging receivables that on an accrual basis they look fine, but the fact of the matter is, not understanding which cash expenditures appear in the P&L, they only appear in the balance sheet, they could be upside down and out of money in 15 months and never know what was going to hit them. That's why they need these type of services. The future is always about risk and investment. Reducing risk, future risk, is always about the money. Spreadsheets is the hard way to do it. Tools are the easy way to do it. Emerging technology in financial services, whether it's people like Prophecy, or there are a number of other tools. There's no one that does exactly what we do, but there are a number of other tools that are out there for you in order to avoid having to work long hours and build complicated algorithms on spreadsheets. That is the hard way. I think one of the things that we found fascinating, and this is kind of a sidebar, but you know, one of the things that we really built into our tool 7 or 8 years ago was the ability to create scenarios, not sliders on projections, but real scenarios. We need to hire this person, and they're going to, and we also have to hire, and when will they start, and what's their base salary, and what are their wages, and we're going to have a sales strategy, and then we're going to have a marketing strategy, and what's the target, how many months does it take to get there, what are the one-time costs, what are the recurring costs, what are the support issues. The ability to literally build a business strategy into a scenario and show how it cash flows and what the risk rate of return is something that's very elegant about what our applications did. We also are the only people that do what's called internationally triple cash flow forecasting, balance sheet forecasting, which is really accounting for things like aging receivables, aging payables, cash expenditures that only appear on the balance sheet, things that are anomalies, the things that actually banks require if you want to get a loan from a bank. They require that you give them a balance sheet forecast. We're the only people that can do the 3-year balance sheet forecasting because we have artificial intelligence tools for doing budget strategies that are not just flatline mean averages, but actually account for seasonality. And okay, so we have all this cool stuff in there. And when we were in the UK, someone suggested that we get accredited by the ICAEW, International Chartered Accountants of England and Wales. Okay, so I said, fine, what's the process in doing that? Well, you have to submit a request. They run a questionnaire, which is specifically towards the type of features that you're doing. Then it is tested by an accounting firm, and if it gets accredited, then you can put that on the brand and the logo. We have promotion and marketing value stuff, and so on. Sure, we do it. Okay. So basically, we were doing this as a forecasting tool with all these features. We got a call back from them saying they had looked through 14 years of history. They couldn't find a questionnaire targeted to forecasting. I said, oh, well, what does that mean? Well, an accounting firm is going to have to build the questionnaire. Okay. Can we make a request of you, Peter? Sure. Would you mind reviewing their questionnaire to make sure they haven't left anything out? And literally, I was asked to be the final vetting. So we did that, and we're in the process of getting accredited as the only tool for forecasting on an international basis for the ICAEW. What's so interesting is that our product actually became the benchmark for somebody else to get accredited in forecasting. So what were they basically saying? If you're doing forecasting, this is all about both compliance, which is why the balance sheet forecast is critical, because the lending institutions require it, and everywhere, not just here. They require it everywhere. But the future is all about capital. So scenario building along with balance sheet forecasting is critical because it's real cash that makes a difference in where you're trying to help your clients move to. And ultimately, what are you trying to get them to? Improving valuation and having a succession. That's the final future. You have to move beyond reports. Now again, today's presentation is not about how to do each of those things. We actually have a third one in these series that we're going to talk about how do you accomplish these things. But the point here is that you have to start with reports in order to build relationship that is simple. You need to do it in a way that requires little time so that you can do it in a way that you actually can learn what you don't know already. Changes are coming. There's no question about the fact that changes are coming. And the big four are driving the changes. And I'm only saying the big four because they have a hard time believing that Anderson and Associates are not going to follow through themselves if they see the other three making progress into that SME marketplace. You know, this is the Willie Loman story. Why do you rob a bank? Because that's where the money is. They're going after your markets. You won't escape the impact. There's no question over the next 5 years. When we were talking to the national head of the ICAEW in London, I'm visiting with them actually in 2 weeks when I'm over there. They basically said they knew they had to move on training of these things, or perhaps as much as 20 to 25% of the chartered accountants who are in their association will no longer have any business because of the impact of this. Don't believe for a minute that's not going to happen here. You need to talk to your business clients. It's really imperative to spend time talking to them. I know that doesn't feel normal, but you have a choice. You can talk and learn how to create future value, or you can roll the dice and see how you're doing 5 years from now. You really need to understand their needs. You need to share the benefits, and you have to define the services. What do I mean by defining the services? Even if it's just in automated reports, even if it's just in a quarterly conversation, maybe you want to do it more frequently than that. Even if it's just giving them a smart device that tells them things they want to know. How much can I afford to pay myself? What do I owe in taxes so far? What's my true break-even? If I do 1,000 above my true break-even, how much margin do I have in that net pre? I mean, these are all things we built into our apps, but trust me, these are the things that they want to know. They want to be able to pull it up on their iPhone or their iPad and go, oh, and isn't this great? It came from my accountant. I mean, frankly, this is the reason we don't sell directly to business owners. We only sell through accounting firms, and we white label it. It's your logo on it. It's not even us. It's imperative that you share the benefits and you find the services. Start simply. High value, low effort. When we first started offering our stuff, we were always getting rave reviews from accounting firms. Oh my goodness, wonderful, oh my goodness. And then no one would go out and use it. And we found out that the reason was they were afraid to get involved in those kind of high-level services because they hadn't done them before. So we went, aha, okay, start simply. High value, low effort. Use tools, not spreadsheets. There is so much out there nowadays that helps you avoid doing spreadsheets. It's almost silly. If you're not aware of it, it's only because you haven't looked. I will say that spreadsheets do have a very important role here and there. I'm building a global projection for the company that has contingencies. In other words, when revenue at a certain location hits a certain point, that sets off a chain reaction of staffing, and then based on the cash flow, that can have a chain reaction in marketing. So it's a little more complicated than you can find in apps. Very, very few people know how to use that stuff and do it. That's the kind of stuff I was actually training analysts and multinationals on. So I'm not saying there is no use for spreadsheets. I'm just saying that for 95% of what you're going to utilize with your clients, use tools, use apps, don't use spreadsheets. Learn how. Be at or above the 10% of the Big Four. Trust me, they're training people. You don't want to be left behind. Scenarios, balance sheet forecasting, valuation, succession. This is the key to how you're going to build the future of your practice to the SME marketplace. It's absolutely what your business owners are looking for. Ultimately, what are we trying to do? We're trying to offer our clients a future of true financial stability. So I want to thank everyone for coming on board. I'm over in the UK in Saturday, Sunday. I'm there for a couple of weeks, and I'm back in the States for a couple of weeks. Then I'm off to Australia for a bit, and then I'm back again. But I will be back with you next month in August on iShade. And it's just been a delight. I hope this was valuable for you today, and I look forward to finding your questions. And I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Peter. As always, it's been a pleasure having you as a presenter as well.
Thank
Let
you.
me go ahead. So we're going to go ahead and move on to answering any questions the audience might have about Peter's presentation in our online Ask the Expert session. I'm going to go ahead and give a quick demonstration on how to log into this live Q&A on iShade.com. Even if you don't have any specific questions, you'll be able to see what other people are asking as they're posted. So I'm going to go ahead. So you'll log onto iShade.com. You're going to go ahead and log in the upper right-hand corner, and then you go to the Ask the Expert tab. And then on this tab, you're going to see his listing here at the top. Ooh, we're going to go ahead and join now.
And
then
of course, you're doing this before I've logged in, so I can't see anything yet.
Oh, no, not yet. But if you go ahead and ask any of your questions now, they will pop up. And once he logs in, he can answer them all. But you'll ask any of your questions in here, and then you just click the Ask button. It's very simple to do. And thank you all for joining iShade today. Feel free to check back on our Ask the Expert tab regularly as we announce new exciting webinars. And we'll see you in the Q&A. See you there, Peter.
Thanks so much, everyone.